Good morning and welcome in to this Love-a-Duckie Facebook live from the lily pad on this Wednesday morning. The birds are singing, the sun is shining, and we're going to do some crafting as we normally do. So good morning, do come on and say hello if you are coming in to join us. Do let us know what your plans are for the day. I've got my tissues, I've got my drink of water, the curtains are open, my fan is on standby in case I go into meltdown. All is prepared. Let's play. One day last week, and I don't know what day it was, that might have been Wednesday, who knows, they all merge into one, don't they? We had to play with a Christmas stamp set. We had a bit of a mad. Well, I've got another stamp set that came out with the autumn winter catalogue last year, Morning Beryl. But today we're going to have a play with it, but we're not going to play with it with Christmas in mind. We're going to take this stamp set that was released with its little snowflakes and things, with the intention that you could use it for Christmas cards. And we're going to hopefully turn that on its head and create some more summary cards with it. That is the plan. We will see how that all works out. So the stamp set is called Nature's Beauty, and when it was first brought out, it was a give back stamp set. So some of the money from the stamp set went back to support mental health charities around the world. And depending on where you were in the world buying it would have depended on which charity it supported. So it was doing some good right from the word go. Morning, Lisa. But it's a really beautiful stamp set, really gorgeous hand-drawn images of these woodland creatures. And so you've got trees and things on there, you've got your grasses and things, and you have got your snow. So if you want to make them snowy creatures, you absolutely can, but we're absolutely not going to this morning. We're going to use it and make it seasonal for the season we're in rather than seasonal for the Christmas season. So I have a couple of ideas to play with. So I'm just scrolling down onto my laptop to see if I can keep half an eye on comments on there as well, if there's any coming through. Okay, so what have we got? We've got our Nature's Beauty stamp set. I've got some thick whisper white there, I've got some shimmery white there, I've got some old olive. We may need to skedaddle off for something else, who knows, but that's a starter for 10. So I'm going to start with a bit of the shimmery white cardstock. I'm going to cut it down a bit, and I'm going to use a stitched rectangle to cut a stitched frame. So that needs to be about 13 centimetres deep. So let's cut that by about, we could say 9.5, I think. So let's cut that about there. And then hopefully our stitched rectangle will fit beautifully on there, and I can run it through my machine. I've dug out quite a few sort of a couple of stitch shapes today. The basic stitch shapes, they are so useful. They're the sort of thing that they may not be amazingly pretty, eye-catching, what a beautiful die, but they are fabulous workhorses, and you use them again and again and again. So this is the stitched rectangles. This is not the largest of the stitched rectangles, it's the second one down. Just going to pop that out of there. And I am aware that these stitch shapes work differently on A4 metric sized cards than they do on US letter size cards, but I think this would work on both. There'd be just slightly different gaps on backgrounds and things. So that is that. I'm going to cut a piece of old olive, just that's going to sit in the back, and I'm going to make that 14.4 by 10. And this is where it sits differently. In fact, I can show you in a minute. So on a UK standard card, this is our first size down mat. So you've got your morning Caroline, morning Molly. Excellent. We'll catch up with you later, Caroline. So this is a UK size card, and that's our second size down. So we have our card base, and then you have your template that goes on the sort of your mat that goes on the top. So that green would be the mat that goes on your top. If you were to create a US size card, your mat, you'd have your card base, and then your first mat would be that size. So you can see how that is different. Actually, that isn't different. So I've actually picked the wrong one up there. It's that size. So you can see how that is different. So on a US letter size piece of card, that is how that rectangle would sit on the mat. You can see that on an A4 card, it is different. They are really quite a different size. So if you do follow, other demonstrators and things on YouTube, and you can't work out why your sizings, your cards, finished cards, look different than their finished cards, it could well be that simple thing. The piece of card that they are starting with is different from the piece of card that you are starting with. Let's tuck those back in there. That's okay. Right. So we've got our piece of shimmery white cardstock that we've die cut with that stitched rectangle, and we've got a piece of old olive. I'm going to cut a whisper white background card base. So let's just chop that at 14.9 and swing it round and score it at 10.5. So this is the thick whisper white I'm making this card base in. So card base, mat, stitched rectangle. Right, so let's put our card base and our mats to one side, because we're going to use our stitched rectangle as our canvas this morning. I'm just wondering, not sure what that's just, what it is that's just careered off the side just there. If I've got any slightly bigger post-it notes. I don't think I have. Never mind. We should be okay. I'm going to take a post-it note. Oh, more than one there. And you can see in my case, I've got all sorts of weird and wonderful things. I've got a printed out picture of a fox to act as an aid to colouring in. I've got a couple of masks in here already, one for the fox and one for the rabbit, but on this occasion I'm going to use the deer. I've got a round punched out piece of post-it note there that can be used to create like a moon effect. So I've got all sorts of weird and wonderful things already tucked away in that case, but actually yes, we are going to just squeeze that on there, which is good news. So let's pick up our deer, and you can tell he's been used for Christmassy projects because he does have glitter on the back of the stamp. I've picked up my Saddle Brown Stays On this morning. I thought that was quite appropriate for stamping deers. I'm not ever so worried about what sort of a intensity of colour I get on this particular stamped image, because we're just cutting it out and using it as a mask. So we have stamped that deer onto that post-it note with his ears at the top where the sticky bit is. I'm not going to worry about cutting out the ground necessarily. I'm just cutting around the deer. Here, oh dear. They are such beautiful drawn images. And bring this down here. And I am going to cut. I'm going to cut up between his legs just here. And just here. And we're going to do the same up between little knobbly knees. Obviously, having cut out and made our mask, we'll be able to hang on to that and use it as many times as we need to until it completely disintegrates, in which case we'll throw it away and do another one. So what I want to do is I want to have a couple of deer sitting on there, but first of all I want to do some trees and things in the background. So I'm going to take these tree stamps. So there's one stamp that's a single tree, and there's another one that's sort of a couple of trees. So we're going to build up a picture in the background with those first. So knowing that our deer is going to come down here somewhere, we can use that as a visual aid for where we're going to stamp our trees. So they're obviously going to be in the background because the deer is quite a lot bigger than the trees are. I'm thinking I might need or want to have another deer looking for a piece of scrap paper of some sort. I'm just going to stamp that off and perhaps have some second generation trees sort of up in the background there. I might come in with this one. And do the same, just so you've got a sense of a little wooded area in the background there with a variety of trees. And we've done all of that in saddle brown because that's given us a nice tree trunk colour. But we said that we didn't want this to be a wintry scene. We wanted it to be sort of summery and green and lush. So I've actually got some watercolour pencils here, and I'm going to grab out the greens I've got in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spritzer and I'm going to spritz over those trees so that my card is damp, but obviously the stays on isn't going to go anywhere. But into that, or onto that wet card, I'm going to add in some watercolour pencils. So this is a granny apple green one. And then what else have we got? We've got a garden green one here. So we're putting in sort of some different greens. It's so warm in here that is drying out, so let me spritz that a bit more, and then we'll add in some old olive. Just sort of use that to blend out that colour and sort of soften it out a bit. So suddenly we've gone from wintry trees to trees that are really quite green and vibrant. And I'm also going to come in and add in some grass down the bottom here. Beautiful. Now I may change my mind slightly about these deer, because I'm going to do them on a separate piece of card. Let's dry that off for a minute. In fact, before I dry that, let's add in some more grass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, nothing like changing your mind as you go along, I'm just going to add in some more mossy meadow down the bottom here. done. Ooh. Let's just move that about a little bit. Might bring in some of the other greens. Right, got quite a nice meadowy sort of look going on there now. Now I'll give that a dry. I'll leave that to one side to carry on drying for a minute while we have a bit of a play with our deer. So let me just give that a dry. Now I'm going to take this other piece of shimmery white cardstock and I'm going to take my deer and my saddle brown stays on. And as I've got to fussy cut these, I'm still going to use my mask, and then I've only got one thing to cut out rather than two. So there's our one deer. Oh dear, dear. Let's bring in our mask and cover him up. This deer is going to be standing behind this one. So about there, I think. Because what happens, of course, is when we remove our mask in a minute, this deer is the one that's going to be in the front. And then we have our two deer standing side by side. So let's cut them out. Morning Hilary, morning Lucy, morning Jackie, morning Em. Right, I'm just going to cut round there, and then when I put those down I shall make sure that they come, stick that down well just there so that we can't see the join. Round their ears. We'll do that. Let me put the lid on my stays on. Don't leave the lid off your stays on, Helen. And I'm going to bring in some inks and use my water brush to add in some colour to these guys, girls, whatever they are. Let's pick up a little bit. Oh, that's very green. A greeny pink. Just add in some petal pink round their noses. And ears. Might just add in, use a water pencil to add in a little bit of pink. And then we'll take some soft suede and we'll add some colour into our deer. Blend that pink out a bit as we come around the ears. Ooh. Bit of fluff just there. Down the legs. And there's our deer just there. And I've got some old olive just here. I'm going to come in. I'm going to be standing on that old olive background, so we'll just add in some of that old olive just here. I'm going to come in on the front here. I'm going to give these both a bit more of a dry. It's still quite wet. I'm going to grab some balmy blue, I think. Now we've dried that off a bit, the colours hopefully shouldn't run together too much, because we're going to just add in some blue for our sky. So there's a bit of sky on our scene. Let's give that another bit of blast. With this blasting with hot air guns, Shawls is doing wonders for my temperature control. And there we go. Right, I am going to take in here, there's a little tiny stamp with grass on, and let's bring in some granny apple green, a sort of different tone of green, and let's add in some grass around their feet. And we'll also add some grass in on our background. Might also come in, where's that little, that's a little bit of daffodil delight. Let's come in and just add in some little spots of colour in the grass that would be representative of some little flowers, because we've got a nice summer meadow, so we'll have some pretty stuff going on in terms of flowers and things. Just a little few spots and ornaments of flowers going on. Suddenly makes it very, add something down here. Makes it more summery. We'll pop those up on some dimensionals just there. There we are. I'm going to put quite a few dimensionals on the back of that just because it has been watercoloured, so it is a bit bendy. So we could have made this a sunsetty scene. Let's have them standing down on the bottom of our stitched piece. And a few yellow flowers in there too. May possibly have been better have done the deer in black just to have made them pop out a bit more from the background, but it's okay, they're in camouflage. And there isn't any greetings in the in the Nature's Beauty stamp set. So we will need to go elsewhere for our greetings. Let me just borrow the birds from my meadow. Could have probably borrowed some of the little flowers and things as well. You could have brought those two together. Just flicking through. have a thinking of you. I think we'll do that in the stays on the brown as well. Subtle brown stays on. Ooh. Sorry if I'm wobbling you. I'm just trying to line that up on the top there. Quite like that. It gives it sort of like an oldie worldy sort of look about it. Okay, so let's come back to our card base and our mat of old olive. Pop those watercolour pencils away for a minute. Just thinking that that background could do with a little bit of texture of some sort. So let's dig into our embossing folders. As we said yesterday, often when you just need a bit of something, your embossing folders can be your go-to. What shall we have? Oh no, that wasn't the one I meant to pick up. I'm going to take the woodland one. Let's just do some sort of tree trunks in the background. This one is just a standard embossing folder, not a 3D one. So I'll just need to take out my die adapter and use 2 plates. Hi Doreen. And decide which way we want our trees to go in the background. That way. So that's better. That just makes all that difference, just having that bit of a something in the background. I'm also going to take some linen thread, so keeping to that sort of idea of quite a natural look. I'm going to leave myself enough there to tie a bow, hold that in place while I wrap this round a couple of times. Then using the end we left, tuck that under there. And we'll tie that in a bow just there. Snip that off. Might bring that round just a smidge. Might have brought it round just a smidge too much. Yes, about there. I can spread these out this side and then spread these ones out a little bit that side. Let's attach that. Let's pop some more. Let's be extravagant and pop some more dimensionals on the back of there. So again, we'll need to use quite a few because it has been watercoloured, so that does tend to make it a little bit on the curly side. and in need of anchoring down quite well. Ladies, I'm sure you understand on. Okay. Let me take the backs off. So apologises if that's a bit noisy in the background. Got doors open, windows open. I've got it all going on. Right. So we've taken our Nature's Beauty and taken that set that was sort of released in time for Christmas cards. Sorry ladies, we're back. We disconnected. I hope that wasn't for too long. I suddenly looked up and realised that it had said it disconnected or was trying to reconnect. So I was just saying, we've taken what was a winter stamp set and created far more of a summery vibe. So just to show that you certainly don't have to think of this nature stamp set as being only for the winter, because it most certainly isn't. We were going to do some little birds. Never mind, we didn't, and I think the deers will survive without them. So I will pop that there, ready to pop those back in a little while. That one will need to go back in that set. Let's give these a wipe, because I've got one other little card I'd got in my mind. This is what happens, you see. Got scribbles on a post-it note because I was thinking, oh, we could do this and we could do that, and I wonder if that would work. So let me put idea to one side. And the other dies that I've got out here are some circles. So I have got the largest stitched circle from the Stitch Shapes and the largest scalloped circle from the Layering Circles. And we are going to, I think in Old Olive, let's stick with our colourway of a Whisper White card base and an Old Olive matte. And I'm going to cut my scalloped circle out of the middle of that. Oh, will I get my stitch circle from there? I might just. And a stitch circle from some shimmery white. So scallop circle needs to be in the middle of that mat so it's not visible. Turn that over. Let's have that way. Let's run these through. Wind, 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 wind. Oh yes, we managed to get that stitch circle out of that bit of scrap, well not scrap, but oddment of Old Olive. Let's not lose our Old Olive because that is for our mat on our card. Let's get our piece of Whisper White cardstock and score that down the middle. Score it and not cut it. that is ready to use. A bit of a mucky mark on that side, so that's the side we'll have to use as the top because we're going to cover that mucky mark. So we have our mat with a hole in, but that hole will not be visible forever. We have a scallop circle, we have a stitch circle, and we'll need a little bit of something to go on the top of there as well. We'll decide what that is in a moment. I'm now going to take my stitch circle, so let's move everything else to one side for a minute. And I'm going to take this sort of little bough of leaves, laurels, whatever they are. They could be whatever sort of leaves you want them to be. I'm going to take my old olive ink and come in just inside my stitches, starting at the bottom, and then we'll go so sort of 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then we'll come in between. And we have a nice laurel of greenery. Then I thought, because remember we're not doing Christmassy cards, we're going summery. Thought we'll try something else new. Now I've not attempted this yet, so this will be a first. Let's pick up that photo follow stamp. This is Back to the Field of Flowers. We've used this a couple of times, haven't we? That's obviously an indicator that it's going to be a useful stamp set. I have got some Blushing Bride cardstock, and I've got some Blushing Bride ink, so we're thinking let's try the Blushing Bride rather than the Petal Pink. I didn't think that looked quite right. And let's stamp some of these Petal Pink flowers. Now I am thinking that I need to trim that up a bit. This side. And then thinking that those flowers, when we get it the right way round and lined up, are going to fit in that punch. Yes, they do. And let's just, oh, it moved. Just going to squeeze it so I'm happy that that's where they are, and then I'm going to pop those out. And then we'll bring it along again, and it looks like the best way to line them up is to cut a corner off of there, and that just gives you the angle I need. Obviously the way that I've stamped them, that just gives me the angle I need, but once you've got them lined up, you get all of those tiny little punched flowers coming out at the same time. We'll see if that's going to give us enough for what we want. Oh, that's okay, Div. I'm sure you're looking stunningly beautiful now. So let me fetch a little tray. Oh, what have I just dropped out of there? I know what I've just dropped out of there, because I now have lots and lots of little stamped and punched flowers that we're going to be able to add into our wreath. More if we need them. But first of all, we need a little creature, and I'm thinking rabbit in there. And I may even, let's clean up our flowers. Now I think with our rabbit we're actually going to stamp him in soft suede. Actually going to bring in, I've got a bit of a smudge just there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp him just there. Oh, he's not very dark, is he? That was my wrong soft suede. Never mind, we will work on that. But because he wasn't very dark, he actually hasn't overstamped those leaves very much. I'm going to bring in my watercolour pencils again. This is the Early Espresso. So obviously the harder you press down, the stronger the colour you're going to get. Add in a bit of pink around his ears, around his nose and mouth. Let's have a blender pen. Now because I've used soft suede to stamp him with, that will blend in as well. So I don't want to be, this is really more of a light tickle, because I want to maintain that definition on those stamped lines. Let's bring in let's sort of put my colours the other way round, and then I'd actually be able to see what colour I was reaching for. Let's bring in this old olive round here. Now with his tail, I'm going to bring in the Whisper White pen and add in more white so that that pops out a little bit more. Let's bring in, that's a specific point, I actually want balmy blue, and we'll just very softly add in a bit of a touch of blue sky. We've got our little rabbit. To grab my sticky end pokey tool, because I'm going to add in some of our little flowers. I'm going to place them for now. We'll go back in and stick them in a minute. Just putting some in around this wreath. That's pretty. That is quite pretty, isn't it? Morning, Pam. So let's stick those in place now. Oh, yes, we have definitely got ink glue coming. The other thing about it being warm in here is the glue is runny. I've got some glue on my finger. Let's just use that. So you can see how just adding in this different colours and different elements, you can take what started off as a set to create winter scenes and absolutely turn it into a set. Oh, where have you gone? To create summer ones. I like these little flowers. This is my first play with these. We're going to need, I've got a little mark on there, so we will need a little something in there. We will see in a minute. Right, so we have our rabbit. We have actually thinking to take just wondering if I've got a big enough piece of it won't quite fit in there. Need to go back to that one, I think. That's not quite big enough. Let's see if we find a piece of blushing bride cardstock. Oh, exciting! New pack. A new pack of card. How exciting is that? Morning, Hannah. So we'll take a new pack of card. Cut it down. Now then, if I remember right, we needed it to be 13 centimetres by 9.5 to fit this stitched rectangle. And what I think we'll do is with that stitched rectangle, we will take our ornate floral 3D die. We'll keep running with the floral theme. Our little flowers that are on our wreath. We'll pick up the idea with some little flowers on this piece of background card. So this is a 3D embossing folder. So we have a stitched, embossed floral background. I think we're going to have that on a bit of a jaunty angle with our flowers on there. And then we have got that old olive ribbon that is now part of that was part of the ornate garden suite. Pretty. So I'm going to take this and just stick it onto here on a jaunty angle. I'm going to wrap some ribbon round. That will no doubt just hold down enough on there for now for us to stick the rest of the card down. So stay. Ooh, that's a bit wonky. So like that. Let's put some glue on the back of here. Stick that to our card front. And we'll take our little rabbit and raise him up. On some dimensionals. A little bunny. So you'll still find this stamp set in the new catalogue sort of nestling up amongst the Christmas things, but don't be fooled. You don't have to use it as such. What shall we have for a greeting on that one? How about one that says, "Trust me, you're lovely"? Because he is rather lovely, isn't he? Or she. If I could just find. There it is. I'll put the backing on that soon. Let's pop that onto some. Oh, no, need a bigger block than that. I don't know that we quite need such a big block as that, but it will do for now. Let's find a little bit of shimmery white cardstock, old olive ink, to cut that out so that that sticks, so it's stitched on 3 sides. What I've got is that stitched on 3 sides. If I move that along, and you can feel that sort of fit back in the die. Hopefully, if I run that back through again, we will also have it stitched on the 4th. Fingers crossed, drum roll. Don't you love it when a plan comes together? There we are. So can you see, by moving that die along, we've managed to get all 4 sides stitched. So we'll have that coming in here, looking as if it's stitched to the edge of that. Been stitched in on the edge of that as well. Now we still got let's put that odd little flower in there. We have got more if we would needed to put in some more flowers, but we'll put that one in there. And then I think because we have stitched around the edge, we've got stitched edgings on everything else. I'm going to take a pen and just run some faux stitching around the outside of this one. As I've said many times, you can use rulers and things to do this if you want to, but it wouldn't be straight if I hand stitched it. So I think it adds to its authenticity if it's not straight when I draw it in. I'm aware that we're running quite late today. Let's add in a little bow. And I think job's a good one. Okay, so Nature's Beauty, released in an autumn winter catalogue, so you could make natural snowy scenes. And we've taken 2 of the creatures, well, we've done 2 deer, 1 rabbit, and created some very sort of spring summery scenes. So just to prove that the stamp set is not just for Christmas, it's for all year round. So I hope you enjoyed playing with those, or watching me play with those, and that you'll go off and have a bit of a play yourself. And then we will be back on tomorrow, on Thursday. Now, on Friday, I haven't quite decided what stamp set I'm going to use yet. So if you have a request for a stamp set you'd like me to use, providing I've got it, obviously, if there's something you'd like to say, can you have a play with such and such, I'd like some ideas or whatever, give me a shout out, give me a message, comment on here. Let's have an all request Friday. Is there something particular you want me to use? Is there a technique you want me to use? Yeah, go on, all request Friday. Let me know. What is it that you want me to do on Friday? You decide. If you don't decide, I'll decide for you anyway. I'll still be here. But if you've got something particular you want me to have a go at, do shout. Do let me know. Right. I will be back in the morning. Have a good day. Have a good evening. And I'll see you soon.